So we'll see if I have the motivation to keep making some more review videos here, but somebody commented the other day on the drag seat, so I thought I would do a little video of it. I don't think I've ever done one. I don't know if I've ever seen one on it, so here we go. So this is a Catalyst drag seat. I think they were bought by, I think it's called One Moto now. I'll throw a link in the description. Of course, if anybody's curious, I know when I bought it, shipping was almost as much as the seat was. And the seat comes with this kind of like fiberglass type of smooth, I don't know, primer paint on it. A couple runs on the street, and then at the drag strip, you know, you slide right back. So what I ended up doing was had an old piece of leather here. I think it might have been suede. And then 3M Super 77'd it right to the seat. And you can tell, I mean, this was tucked over slightly. And as the years gone on, it's worn and moved back a little bit. But it fits really nice. It's really nice. It gets you low in the seat. I'll take it off here, kind of show you what I did underneath it, and then do some weights for you. But overall, it just mounts to the 2 stock holes in the back. I don't believe those are drilled, so you have to drill those yourself. I think there's little indents that show you where to drill. And then in the front here, it bolts to where these stock side pieces bolt onto. For the longest time, I could not get those bolts in, no matter what I tried. Eventually, I found just the right length bolts. I mean, they kind of look like fairing bolts. But the stock ones, I just couldn't get the stock ones to bite and not feel like they were going to cross thread. They just didn't seem long enough for that extra material there. And then the only other thing I'll mention too was, at least for my bike, the way we kind of had it mounted, you know, there's probably a little bit of wiggle room depending on where you drill the holes to mount it. But I couldn't get the stock seat on to, you know, to get at the Woolwich, or if you straight ride it, whatever. I mean, the seat's not great, but I mean, it's not horrible if you're straight riding it for, you know, short distances to go out to Mexico and Canada to do some street racing. But what I ended up doing was I carved this little V in it so that I can get the seat on and off. And then I guess the only other tip while it's on, I would recommend if you can't get these bolts in, I put some Velcro under there. I'll show you in a second. But I put that Velcro under there, but still even on hard launches. I'm no jockey. You know, your weight would move in the back. And you can't tell, you know, of course it's plastic dipped at the moment, but I left little scratches from the weight being pushed up against the back of the seat without it being bolted down. So if you can't get those bolts in like I had the problem for the longest time, you can just put some sort of foam or something on the corners here so it won't dig into your plastic. So let me take the seat off here. If you stick around, I'll get weights of this seat compared to the stock seat, you know, without any hardware, but you know, it's got this little bit of leather on it. And of course it's got a little GoPro mount on it. So I mean, there's a couple ounces there, but I'll get a weight of the stock seat, and then I'll also try and take measurements the best I can with an eyeball to see kind of how low it gets you in the seat. So stay tuned. I got the bolts out real quick. I think you can see there, I mean, the holes, I had to oval them just a slight bit to get them to fit. But then, like I was talking about, I put some Velcro on the bottom side here, and then have some, I think I used some like double-sided foam tape, and then a layer of Velcro on the gas tank mount here, and I mean, with just those 2 back bolts and the without the front ones, you know, since I couldn't get those, again, I had to, you know, oval those ones out just a tiny bit to get all the bolts to line up. I'm no body guy, so but with that Velcro and those 2 back bolts, it stayed really solid. Like I said, on launches, you know, it would dip back and just barely scratch the tail fairing here, but overall it worked pretty good. So again, it bolts to the seat, the bolts where these side plastics bolt on, and then it bolts to where the side pieces are right there. Of course, all the Gen 4s, stupid things break all the time. So there's that. That's get a weight. I guess the other kind of slick thing, if you're doing, you know, if you got the seat and it is more of a a dual purpose street track bike, you can just slide the back seat in here, kind of wiggle it in there, slide it forward to catch, and then of course you got the stock seat on it. So you know, if you're going to do any sort of distance riding or anything like that, you can you know, just undo this one quick and swap seats, you know, in a minute or two to go to the track. So pretty cool. Let's I'll break the scale here, we'll get some weights, and then I'll get measurements and let you guys know. First up on the scale, if we can get it to fit, would be the drag seat here. Comes in at 1 pound, 2.5 ounces. Stock seat, you know, with no hardware. Nothing's touching. That comes in at 1 pound, 9 3/8 ounces, so it saves a little over 4 ounces maybe, which isn't a lot, but you know, every little thing adds up. So there is that, and I guess, you know, you don't technically use the bolt, so maybe save another ounce or something there, but overall saves a little bit of weight, and I will put the stock seat on and try and get some measurements and let you know that. So measuring about where the foot peg is, kind of where I thought you would about sit if you're trying to sit forward and get a good tuck, was about 30 inches on my bike with it lowered. You know, it's in a back sleeve, but and obviously not strapped, but you know, just for comparison's sake, it's at about 30 inches. With the drag seat here, it's at 28.25 inches, so you know, it lowers you about 1.75 inches in the seat, you know, rough guesstimate, which of course the lower your center of gravity, the more far forward you are, you know, it kind of you know, it holds you more in towards the front of the bike, gets you lower, the, you know, obviously the faster in theory you're gonna go. So hopefully this helps. I would definitely recommend it if you guys are drag racing the Gen 4 ZX10. Definitely a cool little piece. And again, if you're gonna, so there's like the little piece of foam I had, if the camera focuses, that I had on the back to try and catch it. Obviously, over time it just tore it in half, but overall, definitely would recommend if you guys are drag racing your Gen 4 and you got a stock tail and a stock gas tank, definitely worth picking up from Catalyst. We'll throw the link in the description below if you're curious to check it out. Otherwise, let me know if you got any questions. Thanks, guys.